Welcome back to CrossCut, guys. It feels like it's been a while. All the holidays have passed. We're getting back into routine for new CrossCut episodes. How was your holidays, Josh?
My holidays were good. Happy New Year, everybody. You said guys, so I guess this is just guys only at this point. No girls allowed. Sorry. Well, That's just Chris. So,
What?
guys, girls, everyone on my end is welcome. Only Chris is not
But
letting
in
everybody in. But
general, I was doing in general.
my holidays were good. I had a good Christmas, New Year. It was nice. How was yours?
Well, mine was good. I had a bunch of family around, bunch of presents, a new addition to the family.
No. Do you want to make an announcement?
Her name is
Oh,
Molly.
hi, Molly. Oh.
Say hi, Josh. Hi,
I don't
dog.
even want to talk about the movie now. I just want to look at this dog all day.
So
Oh,
she is mostly all Shih Tzu.
We successfully mated a bulldog with a Shih Tzu.
Really? That's weird.
Yeah, we called it a bullshit.
I'm
Yes.
very fond of little white dogs because that's all my family's ever had is little tiny
It's the white dog.
furry
Yeah.
white dogs.
So her name is Molly. She's 5 years
Oh,
old.
hi, Molly. So this episode's going to be full of dogs and cats. We'll
Ah,
get to that later. Um, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. You finally did it. You
mm.
you did it. You must have won the $1 million. Did you get a blank check and decide, oh, what the hell? Instead of buying a mansion, let's get a dog.
Oh, I wish I had a blank check and just filled it out for $88 billion. That would be cool, you know?
Yeah, that wouldn't raise any red flags. Well, all right. Now that we did that introduction, let's get into it. Chris, what movie did we watch this week?
So this week we're going back to the 90s again. But this time we're staying away from all the sporting movies. We're going to an oldie. Some of you may have heard it, some of you may not have heard it. Blank Check.
Blank check. That's right. And Chris, this was an interesting pick because this movie's coming up actually on its 30-year anniversary. I looked it up.
Oh.
February 11th, 2020, or February 11th, 1994 is when this movie was released. Happy 30-year anniversary,
Happy
blank check.
30th. Happy
Who, and
30th.
if this movie was made today, what would that check be worth? $1 million then, maybe like $10 million now, something like that.
Probably something like that. Yeah, yeah,
I like how in the movie they said, Shay says,
yeah.
$1 million doesn't really get you as much, and that's 1994.
Yeah,
Think about
imagine now. Now you can barely get a car.
2025. Oh, you know what? I messed up. I'm still thinking it's 2024. 31-year anniversary. Happy 31-year anniversary, blank check.
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
it's 2025 now. I watched this movie a lot as a kid. This was one of
Time.
those movies that, yeah, I feel like I definitely watched it a lot, probably on well, yes, on VHS. I don't know if I owned it because I feel like I watched a lot. Maybe I just got it from the library a lot, but
I
yeah,
don't, I think I just saw it on TV, like just randomly all the time.
I don't think I
Cause
ever remember seeing this on TV for me. It was always a VHS movie.
see, I never had it on VHS. So like I just distinctly remember seeing it on TV, like because it had commercials and everything. And I just remembered Blank Check. It was so, I don't know, it's so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
think
And
about it.
then
A kid getting $1 million.
so this is when I was watching it, I was like, this was made during an era. I don't know if it was just like the 90s, but there's a lot
Mm,
of fun kids movies that came out at this time. I had
mm.
brought up Richie Rich to
Yeah,
you a couple weeks
yeah.
back, and that's another movie came out the same year. I think it was 94, where
Okay.
it's just like a kid, you watch this movie as a kid and you're just like, "Man, I want that life." And I
I
think that's
know.
kind of like the idea of the movie. And Blank Check, I think actually goes even more with that idea because there's just scenes of him with all his toys and his mansion
Hmm.
and his house. I love the mansion, by the way.
Oh
That
yeah, the
that
mansion's
always stood out.
amazing. I've always every time I said as a kid I wanted a house, it was a mansion, and I always referred to this mansion and the one from Smallville.
Yeah, it's just for this movie. It was always the exterior because it's like a castle,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure if that was like an actual like they just made like a facade or if that was an actual house. I did look it up. The movie's set in Indiana, which I don't think I ever realized this movie. I always thought it was like California, but no, it's set in Indiana, and it was filmed in Texas actually, like Austin and San Antonio.
Oh, yeah, that makes
So
sense. Yeah.
it looks Texas. Like when I was watching, I was like, I was thinking about it. I was like, this movie I feel like was filmed in Texas, and it was. So yeah, man,
That's
that
good.
house, and then all his toys, all his gadgets. Definitely the third act of this movie is Home Alone. I think that was a
Oh
big
yeah.
inspiration. There
He
were a lot of movies coming out at that time as well that were post Home Alone, not Post
mhm.
Malone, post Home Alone,
Oh my God.
and had to be, all right, we need the kid to set the traps, and he's got to get the bad guys, and then a bunch of shenanigans. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what
Yeah.
this movie is at the end. And this movie
Yeah.
has a good I like this movie's message. It's money doesn't buy you everything.
Exactly. Movie,
And I
and
always like that.
it's even more stated in the beginning with Shay too. Like $1 million doesn't really get you that much, and
Right. Which, by
it
the way,
doesn't buy
Shay is
happiness.
Chris's cutie of the week.
Oh no.
Did you recognize her from another 1994 movie that we've done before? It's the only other movie I ever knew her from. It was Dumb and Dumber. She plays the
Oh,
bad guy's assistant or whatever.
Joe, let me do them. Let me do both of them. You don't have to worry about.
Which, funny
right,
enough, in
right.
that movie, her name is Shay as well. Anyways, I was watching this. I was like, man, I mean, if I was Preston, like, damn, yeah, I'd be all over her too.
I mean,
She was a honey.
it's Shay.
And
Shay.
there's something I wanted to talk about with this movie. It's something you brought up already, that the little kiss at the end of the movie. And I'm
Right.
not sure if you saw, this movie's kind of been coming back into the millennial zeitgeist recently
hmm
because it's like, oh, one of those movies you loved as a kid that's kind of cringe now. And
Yeah.
it's because of that
That
dynamic
scene.
between him and
Yep.
her. That scene specifically, yes. And when I was watching the movie, I was keeping that in the back of my mind throughout the whole movie.
Same.
And this is my take on everything. I don't think it's cringe. I don't. I think it's a kid's fantasy. The whole movie is a kid's fantasy come to
Yeah.
real life. And part of that fantasy is being with this beautiful woman. And
Right.
who knows, maybe the kiss was just in his head at the end. I'll admit, maybe the kiss should not have been on the lips. Maybe it should have been on the cheek. That would have been my one note as a
That,
studio
yeah, because
executive back then.
I
That,
know
that
that it's
was,
over the years people have bashed on that scene a lot just because of, oh, okay, it's a kid with a grown woman, you kiss on the lips. Like you don't even see that in any other movies, really. Not
yeah,
for
that would
the
have been the
sake of
one,
an age
the
gap.
one thing. Just no, not on the lips. Maybe on the cheek would have been fine.
Right.
But throughout the whole movie, like her whole motivation is like she, even the scene where she's in the limo after they have their little date,
hmm
her whole motivation is she's the FBI agent. She's trying to get this
Right.
guy, and she needed him to get information about this person that she knew. Macintosh was doing the wire fraud. So even in the
Right.
limo, she just gives him a little like, like a little high five kind of handshake thing.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
not like the
almost
whole
like
movie's like that.
you're
It's just the end of the movie.
I know, but even in the limo, like yeah, he gives them the high five kind of thing, but it almost seems like she's teasing him as well.
I never got that. I never got that. When I was watching that specific scene,
hmm
she felt like the adult with a kid, and it never felt like she was
True.
teasing him. I never got that impression.
I
Um,
would say that just because of his reaction too. Like, okay, he's having a really good time. He thinks, okay, something could happen,
yeah,
and
and he's
he's
a
like,
kid, so that's fine
no,
for him to think
you're a
that way.
kid. That's
Yeah.
what she says, kind of thing. Like you're a kid, nothing's gonna happen. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
back
so
to reality.
ultimately, I don't think the movie is cringe just because of that last scene.
No.
And again, that last scene, I think it's more of it's ultimately this kid's fantasy finally coming to fruition, and
Yeah.
part of his fantasy was the girlfriend, and that was that.
I mean, she even
Anyways,
says the line at the end, like, why don't you see me in a few years when you grow up?
right. Okay, I will make a remark about the line. She says 10 years, which is fine. He
10
says
years,
5. They finally agree, I think, on the number 6, which if you do the
something like
math, he's supposed to be 11, so he'd be 17. He's still underage. All right, come on. All right. Anyways, we're moving on. Next thing I was going to bring up is so the guy that wrote this movie, his name is Blake Snyder. He's sadly passed away over the years. He actually wrote one of the best screenwriting books out there. It's
Save the
called
cat.
Save the Cat. So if anybody out, that's watching is interested in filmmaking, interested in
Especially
screenwriting,
screenwriting, yeah.
I highly recommend this book, Save the Cat, and it's all about structure. It's all about
Hmm.
beats and scenes, and this should happen here and that should happen there. And Blank Check, the movie that he wrote, is a prime example of this, what he reiterates in this book. So if you've
Hmm.
never read it, I highly recommend it. I actually use this a lot when I write my screenplays because because it's about structure.
Hmm.
It really helps out, if you're not sure where to go with a scene or what should happen. This is definitely a book I recommend. So Blake Snyder and Save the Cat's become a pretty big thing over the years. And
Yeah.
I don't know what else he wrote. I'd have to look him up again on IMDb. But I think Blank Check was like his big movie that he sold to Disney and got like a big paycheck. And that
Course.
movie is structured that way, where it clearly from the beginning it introduces what this main kid Preston's motivation is, and it's like he wants to be rich, or he wants money so
He
he can
wants
have
to be his own
independence,
man kind of thing.
be his own man. And they
Hmm.
introduce all this stuff
Hmm.
early on. Speaking of the beginning, the brothers, their business, Hand and Foot. What was that business? Was it like
They
a cleaning
never
business?
explain what it
They
is.
they don't. When I was rewatching it, I was like, what exactly is their business? I think it's a cleaning business because there's a scene later on where he's in his bedroom on the
Oh,
computer and there's a
yeah.
bunch of cleaning products around. So I was like, oh, maybe it's a cleaning business.
And that's what I also think too when he Macintosh hires them and they're just cleaning the race cars
Right,
and stuff.
exactly. Yeah. So it might have been a cleaning business
Yeah.
anyways. I want to talk about the characters for a little bit. I
Yeah.
really loved the dad in this movie. I thought he was he also kind of learns his lesson at the end. He has
He
that great.
does.
I always love that scene where he goes to the mansion and he's in the office and
Or
he's
talking
talking
to
to his son,
Macintosh when it's just a chair, yeah.
thinking it's Macintosh. And he's like, I don't want Preston to lose out on his childhood, and I don't either. And
Yeah.
I love that scene. And then it gets to me when Preston's running outside and he's screaming for his dad as he's driving
Yeah.
away. I did always like that scene, and I did like the actor. And then actually, right when I finished watching this movie, I realized that a lot of the actors in this movie they've actually passed away. So the dad, he actually passed away. I looked it up I knew he did 2015.
Oh man,
James
I didn't know about
Rebhorn,
him.
and it's funny because like a lot of the actors in this movie, I always only knew them from like two things mostly. So James Rebhorn, I always knew him as the dad from Blank Check
Uh-huh.
and Independence Day.
Independence Day, yes.
Yeah.
And then same thing with Miguel uh,
For
Ferrer.
Farrar, who I think Ferrer maybe, yeah.
Ferrer.
Again, sadly, he passed away too. That was another one I was about to bring up.
And he's
Um,
the only one I
I was
know him
gonna
from is Blank Check and RoboCop.
RoboCop, yeah. I do actually kind of remember him from Iron Man 3 because he has a small role. He plays the president,
Oh man, I don't even
but
remember
yeah,
that.
for him it was always Blank Check. He was a bad guy in Blank Check,
And he's
or he was a bad guy in
the
RoboCop.
RoboCop.
So yeah,
He plays the douchey character,
right. And then Shay, the bank
right?
person slash FBI agent. I already mentioned Dumb and Dumber
Dumb and
was the
Dumber.
other thing I knew her
Oh,
from.
even the actor who plays Biederman.
Oh, Michael Lerner, the bigger
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, he's an Elf. I remember him from Elf.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sadly, he also passed away last year. Just
I knew
to mention
about
that.
him. Yeah.
And then finally, Juice.
Juice
He,
too.
I knew him from one other thing, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of actors in this movie that I knew from just like one other thing and Blank Check. But
And they're all
it was
mostly in the
always
90s or early 2000s.
pretty much, yeah. But it was always like if I saw that other movie that I knew that actor from, I was always, oh, that's that person from Blank Check.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention
Exactly.
that. But yeah, sadly, a lot of people from this movie have passed away. Mostly the older
Yeah.
actors. The main kid though, Preston, I never knew him from anything else.
I
I
don't
always,
remember.
I did look him up. He did stop acting shortly after this movie came out. He was a child
Okay.
actor. He was in that TV show Family Ties with Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
So I think he played like his younger brother, I want to say, in that movie, or maybe I don't
So
know.
he didn't follow into acting career.
Not really. He did kind of stop
Family
after
Ties.
like 1994 roughly, so like pretty much after this movie came out. He does have some credits on his IMDb from like the last few years, but nothing you would recognize. So
Oh.
yeah, I always knew him as, I mean, this is it. This was Blank Check, and that was
Preston
the only thing.
Waters.
But he's good in this movie, man. He's got some he had some good scenes.
And now we got to talk about the driver.
Oh my God. Okay. Henry. So, all
Henry.
right. I guess that'd be the last one to end on because he sadly passed away in 2015.
Yep.
Um, Once again, I mean, okay, so I knew him from this and one other movie for the most part. It was a Scary Movie. He plays the dad in Scary Movie, and
Oh,
he's hysterical in that movie.
I don't
But I
I get
did
them all mixed up.
recently, not that long ago, I watched Groundhog Day, which he was in that movie, and he's very good. He was always like a small
He's
role
always a
kind of
secondary
actor.
character with like a comic relief.
Yes, and he's but I always knew him from again Blank Check. I
Yeah.
liked his role in this movie. I liked him and his relationship with Preston. You know,
Hmm.
he's like the big kid that never grew up kind
Yeah,
of thing, and he's the
exactly.
comic relief.
He's just playing. He's just being his friend.
Yeah, and that's what I like at the end of the movie because you know he leaves and Preston thinks he ditched him because he doesn't have any more
Hmm.
money, and then he comes back. He's like, nah, man, I had to get ice cream, and you know they have their little back and forth, and I really
Yeah,
liked it. And you know they're talking about like Macintosh, but you could tell they were talking about each other, like
yeah,
they're
of
not going to see
course.
each other again. And yeah, it was sad.
And you can see that Henry's like he does pick it up throughout the movie. That's really him.
Yeah, because he spends the most time with them, so
You
he
pick
would
it out.
realize that. It's
Yeah.
funny, always watching this movie, I'm always just like, you know, thinking like, where is Macintosh? But there is no Macintosh. But they just talk about it so much, like, where's Macintosh? I'm like, maybe there is some guy out there named
He's in a
Macintosh that,
meeting somewhere. Yeah.
yeah.
The VR, the
Well,
pool,
yeah,
the
that's
slide that comes from his office.
I do love that slide, man. That slide was
Come
great.
on.
That's one of the that'd probably be like if I could take one thing out of this movie and be like, what could I have for myself? It'd be that slide because that slide was cool.
Oh, see, I that slide always got me confused with Richie Rich. I wasn't sure which movie it's in.
Yeah, so I don't think he has a sliding ridge because I just watched that not that long
He
ago. I think he
doesn't,
doesn't have
right? Okay.
No, he doesn't.
But I wasn't sure because I know Richie Rich, he has a lot of stuff in the
Right.
house too. So I was like, is the slide in that one or in blank check? And then okay, no, it is in blank check.
Yeah.
It is a cool slide. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen him spend that money because he gets the $1 million. He immediately drops 300K on the house. And then it actually kind of breaks it down. I never really like paid attention as a kid to like, you know,
How
how
much
the
he's
money's
spending?
spent. Yeah. I always just remember at the end he spent it all basically and he had nothing left,
He had
which
like 300 bucks left, and he had to still
yeah.
pay $100,000 to the event
For that awful
coordinator.
party, which who are these people at this party? Where did
I
they
was
come
wondering
from?
the same thing. Like, who are they? Celebrities? Who?
I assume they were like people that the party planner knew and was just
I
like,
think
"Hey,
so.
come to this party." Because like who
Exactly.
else would it have been? It was probably just like local, yeah, like you said, kind of celebrities, but like local people in the area that were like high profile probably. They were like, "Hey, there's
Exactly.
this new guy in town. Come to
Hmm.
his party and, you
Hmm.
know,
And
get
I
to know
did I
him."
did feel bad about Preston when he goes to like roaming around the parties. Like, where's the pizza and ice cream? Where he can't even open any presents. And like
Hmm.
that oh wow. I'm like,
That
I
scene
feel
where he goes
bad
to look
for
at the
him.
presents and the guy's like, "No, that's for Macintosh," and he keeps having like a "Go find your dad." I thought Preston should have been like, "Hey, man, like I'm paying for this party."
I wish he would have said something like, I work for Macintosh, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you expect him to say something like that, something witty, but he was just so lonely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And
I
that's
like
kind of where
how
that movie oh go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that when the event planners like parties over, everyone starts taking things, even their own presents that they brought. And
I
if you
guess I do the
notice,
same thing.
the presents, when they start grabbing them, uh, you can tell that they were just props because they weren't
Oh
carved
yeah,
all the way.
they weren't fully wrapped. Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah. But it was at that scene where like Henry couldn't hang out with him and then
Yeah.
he's kind of alone and he starts to realize that, you know, money can't buy you everything, which
Right.
is the moral of the story. It's, you know,
Mhm.
because he didn't really have a lot of friends. Okay, we got to talk about the little dickhead.
Oh, God.
What was the redhead
Another
kid's name?
actor that I only know him from one other movie.
Which is Hook. Which I didn't realize that was him from Hook, but then when I looked it up, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember the little redheaded kid from Hook."
He's not an old Doyle from Billy Madison, is he?
No, but he looked like that kid. It's not
Right?
him. But when I think the kid's name is Cameron Monaghan, the from those Adam Sandler movies,
Okay.
from like Click. That I think that's Cameron Monaghan, and he's gone on to do a bunch of stuff.
But
But
they look
I was,
so damn
oh my,
similar.
when I was watching this movie, I was like, damn, that looks like that kid. It looks like Cameron Monaghan. But no, it's not.
No, I
Yeah, Butch was the name of
Butch.
his
Mhm.
character. Yeah, he was a little prick, man. In the beginning of the
Oh,
movie,
God.
when they're at the park, and he's just like being a
Hey,
jerk.
Preston, come
Like,
on with us. Just kidding. No.
what an asshole, man.
He was. And he ratted him out quickly to Quigley.
Oh yeah, yeah.
His
I Quigley
full
should have just let him fall
out
from
address.
that building. Yeah. Which I guess that was another thing I didn't realize. You know, they go to the house later and they kick the door
Breaking.
down, and
Yeah.
nothing's ever said later by the family. I'm just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
okay,
But I
but
like it. I like Juice's comment. Like, I love what they've done with the color.
he's funny. I think he was like maybe not a stand-up comic, but he definitely had like some comedic chops because he's really funny. You could tell he was like doing improv throughout the movie.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
like just ramble, man. Just say some funny things. He's chasing him and he falls into the river.
Oh yeah, the cars chase scene.
Cart. You gotta have some action in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, essentially, that's where the Home Alone aspect comes from. It's from them
Yeah.
chasing him, and they do a pretty decent job in the beginning of making it so that they couldn't find him easily. It's like, oh, trade in these bills for unmarked bills. He changes his name on the check from his name to Cash. So it's like, all right, there's these little things that would make it so they couldn't find him easy.
Sure. But then again, like the bank manager, like, how stupid can you be? It's like you really think his new way of trying to go under the radar, sending in a kid to collect
Well,
the
he
money.
does make a comment. He's like, and he starts. I think that's why he starts laughing because he's like, "Oh, Quigley, like he's found his way to
Brilliant.
d right." So I think that was just his way of thinking, like, "Oh yeah, just
And
send in a kid. Nobody would suspect anything." Which actually is
right.
not the worst plan. If you were trying to smuggle $1 million,
True.
a kid wouldn't be the worst way to go about it.
True. But Preston was just he got so lucky saying the right answers at the right time.
And that's the idea. It's like, right place, right time. It's like a term where it's like, all these things just fall into place right at
Hmm.
the right moment.
He
And
just
that's
happened to
what
be
this,
at there at 1 o'clock. He said
right.
so like he you ran into quickly. No, he ran into me.
Exactly.
And like literally.
And the beginning of this movie is always intense too. Like I forgot, it's almost like a horror movie where it's like he's running down the train tracks and it's like intense music playing. Like you'd think you'd watching like The Fugitive or something.
Again, Butch being a dick.
Oh, Butch. Yeah.
The $11 check that he probably end up kept keeping anyway.
Well, I did think about it because he does give Shay $200 to open his bank account, so he would still have $200 in his bank account after everything. And I'm not sure what
True.
happened to the rest of the cash in his backpack. He probably just left it there. But I did
He
have
spent it
a
all,
hypothetical
remember?
question. What happened to the house? Who gets the house? Because
It
okay,
probably
first off, there's a big plot hole right here where he pays cash for the house, but like somebody would need to sign papers and stuff like that for.
that, yes, you would have to. Even if it's an electronic thing, you still need a signature.
Yeah, I mean that's just a movie thing that
But
real
even though
life and
since
movie.
all of it was counterfeit anyway, that um everything would have still gone back to FBI would have confiscated everything.
Well, that's the thing. If you notice, when the how Shay comes on to Macintosh
Hmm.
is because it's the real estate lady that's at the bank giving her the money. If you
Yes,
noticed, so
yes.
that and then she
This
scans it
new
and it
guy,
has the
Macintosh.
exactly, and she scans it and that's where it has the FBI mark, and
Right,
that's when they start investigating Macintosh.
right.
That kind of explains that. But yeah, what happened to that house, man? Did you go back on the mark? First off, $300,000 for a house for that house. Come on, that's 90s.
I, I mean, it started with like 150 or something like that.
Right, right, right.
3K. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Mom, you're killing me on this deal. Oh, there's another little thing I read about this movie, a nice little hidden detail that we were talking about how he still would have like, the $11 check and the $200 in his bank
Mhm.
account. I guess if you watch that scene where he realizes he has no money and it breaks everything down.
Right.
Remember there's the scene where his dad grounds him and he's like, "Oh, I can't talk to him about plan 442,"
Mhm.
which was like his investment plan. I
Yeah.
guess he invested 300K into his dad's plan. I guess it's on the screen that's
Oh,
part of what he
I
thinks of it.
I
So
didn't catch that on the screen.
I guess his dad did get money for his investment. So that's kind of nice.
Right. But it's still counterfeit money. They would still confiscated that.
Well, I would assume he already had the money at that point because Preston didn't have it. So who knows? Whatever.
True, but I think in reality, the FBI would have just grabbed everything.
Chris,
Every
don't
last
ruin this kid's movie for us.
good.
You're
I'm,
overthinking it.
I'm
Just
being
be happy that
realistic.
the dad got
I'm
his money and
being
Preston
real.
learned his lesson. And at the end of the movie, he made his birthday wish that he clearly just wanted her.
Pretty much.
Well, what is it? What did she say? What else could a guy? What else could a kid want? And he looks at her and blows out the candles. That's what he wanted at that point. He went from wanting money, now he wants girls because he's growing up.
And he got the girl in the end. He got a
I
kiss.
I wish they made a sequel and saw that relationship. What would happen? Because she wasn't that old, man. I mean, what do you think she was? Late 20s, maybe.
Uh,
So in six,
maybe
7 years, she would have been mid 30s, and he would
young.
have been a strapping, very, very wise 11-year-old at the time. Like this kid knew his way around computers,
Yeah, he
finances. He
was
obviously
smart.
knew, yeah, he knew how to buy stuff. Yeah, man, this kid knew computers for the early 90s. He knew how to use software. He knew how to
Hmm.
do financing. Obviously, he was buying stuff.
I
He
mean,
knew how to coordinate all these movers, bringing everything. Like this kid was
yeah,
smart, man. I
even
wouldn't
when
be
he,
surprised if he was, an 18-year-old entrepreneur, like making
oh
money.
yeah, you can easily see that. But even from the very beginning of the movie, when he's doing his like finance things, like uh, are we broke? Like,
Yeah,
and then he
and
gets
he
the
like
check
knew
from
what
his
his dad was
grandma,
gonna say. Right, right. But like
and
he even like preemptively knew what his dad was gonna say at times. Like he was very smart that way.
right, and I love the line was like $10. Dad, what about inflation?
11,
You're right, $11.
which today would be 1750. I
Uh,
feel like we talked a lot about Blank Check, the classic 90s Disney movie where every kid's
mhm.
dream of having whatever you wanted came true. But then you realize that what you really
It
want
doesn't make
is friends and family.
everyone. It's a nice movie to watch. It brings out your inner kid of wanting everything you've ever wanted. Uh, it's an all around just fun movie. It's one of those 90s movies that you want to be part of. You want to be in that movie. Just like Blank Check, Richie Rich, Home Alone. You want to be part of it.
Right.
Mm.
It's the kid's independence. He could do it
Yeah,
kind of what he wants. And
exactly.
that's what every kid wanted growing up in the 90s, man. They just wanted to live life and love and just have fun.
Oh, another movie to shout out would be Big.
Big, yeah. I just watched Big. It was on TV not that long ago. Yeah,
Hmm?
that was an 80s movie technically though.
Yeah, but same principle kind of thing that he's just a big kid that happened to
Right.
get everything he wanted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do want to do a little shout out to one of our subscribers who kept commenting on a lot of our videos lately. His name is Brian Rizzo 9377. Thank you for commenting on all the videos we've been doing from Dumb and Dumber to Angels in the Outfield. Uh, I think you did commented on Jingle All the Way. You made some really good points, uh, and you really did elaborate on a lot of the plot from all those movies. So thank you for following us and interacting with us as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Name a movie you'd want us to review and we'll do it for you.
Yeah, all right. I think that's it for Blank Check. Any
All
more
right.
last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, if you want to give me a blank check and let me put any number on it, I'd be more than welcome.
Yeah, sure. Cut print, moving on.
Chris, you know what you got? STYLE.
Stop.
Stop.